Welcome, everybody, to the X Factor podcast today. We're getting into it with a good episode, and we're going to be reviewing Monday Night Raw from last Monday, which was yesterday. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning, but we're getting through this anyway. Always remember to subscribe to the channel, follow my social media pages, TikTok and Twitter. Just look up Olas. It has the same logo as my Twitter or as my YouTube. And enjoy the content that I'm trying to give. I know it doesn't seem very good right now, but as I keep growing and growing and growing, and the confidence keeps getting going, and the more fans keep going, we'll be in business. Big business for anyone. So we're gonna start with. Well, first I'm going to start with one thing. In the 10 years I've been watching wrestling, most chaotic episode of Raw I've ever seen. Up, down, sideways, everything was chaotic. The whole show was just incredible. Storytelling through the roof. And I don't even know where to start because of how good this episode of Raw was. But we're gonna start off with the good, and then we'll get off with the ugly. It's not really ugly. It's just needs some touch ups. But we're gonna get right into it. So we're gonna start off with Cody Rhodes. He kicked off Raw. In 2 weeks, of course, he has to go on and face Roman Reigns for the WWE Undisputed Championship, and like he pretty much has been, just pretty much talking about how much the bloodline gets involved, or how much what happened last year, he got screwed out of it. He finally admitted that he hated Roman, so that was something. And Brock came out. I think they went on for like about a good couple minutes where they just stood right at each other. I was like, can someone please fucking talk? Like, this is the one moment we have. Like, it was a holy shit moment. And the start of the whole rivalry, or like from the minute The Rock got involved, I was against everything through the whole first half of this rivalry. But since the night Cody slapped Brock, I can feel what they're trying to do here. They're bringing us in, and I can feel like the chills. Like Rock says, chills. You know, they're bringing in The Rock coming out to the Hollywood theme. It just fits the perfect mold of what this rivalry needed. I will say some of the little things that could improve. They're making Roman look like a bum, which gives me some indication that they're gonna have Cody beat him in a way, so it makes him look weak like Roman looks weak, so when Cody beats him, it's just like it's still gonna mean something. But like Rock was, their entire build. And as for right now, for when the rivalry first started, I wanted the segments to be on Raw, because SmackDown, I think the main rivalry over there on SmackDown is Bayley and Io. Since The Rock and them got involved, they've been taking their time off. I feel like they've been putting more effort into this one than they have with Bayley and Io, to kind of prove on why that should be the main event night one and not Bayley and Io, because a lot of people are been saying that Io and Bayley should main event night one. So I feel like it's upper management trying to come in and say this is why they should main event night one. They did the same thing with the Usos and all that last year and Charlotte Flair and Rhea. But The Rock stands right in front of Cody. He whispers him something, and leaves. It was a very big holy shit moment. And the fact that Rock didn't even need to say a word to the fans just made the thing like a chill, like, holy shit. Like, even though I wanted The Rock to say something, didn't happen. a very cool moment. I feel a very cool moment we got with Roman or with Rock and Cody, because it kind of like they teased a little bit of a match, which I would be up to do it, depending on how Rock, of course, looks at WrestleMania. If Rock looks fucking amazing, you know, it's gonna be good. But either way, money wise, it's still gonna be good. Doesn't matter if the match is bad or not. Um, so and plus, I get a lot of WWE fans say that they like the wrestling, but if you're gonna sit there and pay or whatever amount to watch a match that you know ain't gonna be good, it tells you how good the story is. And I feel like WWE fans have been through that, through years with Hogan and all that. But the first start of the show, very, very cinema-like. Very good. Now get to the best match of the night, Ricochet and JD McDonough. And, the first match that they had, it wasn't really long. It was an alright match. But this match, ooh, they came in and they blew the fucking house down. Like, it was one of my favorite TV matches this year. Like, if Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher did not wrestle at that Dynamite a couple weeks ago, this would have been it, probably. It was just a super fucking fun, cool match to watch. And the crazy shit that we got out of this with Ricochet doing the poison rana off the top rope. Fucking insane. And it also showed a lot of how much JD McDonough is good at what he does. He gets, on the internet, he gets a lot of shit about him, but people gotta remember, he is one of the best underrated guys that they have. And no one talks about him. That's why it makes him so much underrated. Ricochet. We haven't seen Ricochet pull moves out like that in forever. Like, I feel like the last couple of years he's been slowed down, and then he comes out and does this shit on a fucking random episode of Raw. So, it very, very good, smooth way to start the show out. Especially when my expectations were, well, here's just another, 7 minutes, Ricochet's gonna win, doesn't matter type of stuff. And it actually ended up looking better than what we all thought. And I wish we can get matches like that every single week. Because if we can get matches like Ricochet and JD every week like that, instead of having them go for like 5 minutes and boom, done with, like we've been seeing with a lot of like mid-card matches, we'd be back in business. Big business. Getting into it, I'm going to talk about Punk's promo in a little bit, but we're going to talk about Ivy Nile and Candice LeRae. Talk about the way they're putting Candice LeRae as a heel. First off, I love it. I love how they've been able to, after what happened at Elimination Chamber, to, coming out and doing what she said to Maxine, which was fucking brutal. It was like she fucking roasted the shit out of her. It was fucking terrible. And coming to find out that her brother that she actually has a dead brother, I thought they were talking about Max Dupree the whole time. Coming out she actually has a dead brother makes the whole thing fucking just, how did she even agree to that, type stuff. And Candice LeRae, she's been a fucking menace for the last couple weeks. Like, she's been another one like JD McDonough who hasn't been able to prove what their worth is, like how good they actually are. And in this match between Ivy Nile, her being a heel, it's proving how good she is as a heel, but you gotta let these women cook. I get it's not Becky or Rhea or Nia Jax or Liv Morgan, but you gotta let these two, you gotta let them cook. A 2-minute match, how are you gonna show to the fans how good they really are if you're putting up a 2-minute match? And that's the only women's match on the card. And you're gonna put them out like that. You're making Ivy look like a bum, which she's not. She's another underrated talent. Like, it's like a mini Rhea Ripley. Just a mini strong woman and that's what she is. And Candice LeRae, who's in the way they're building her up, could be the best women's heel wrestler outside of probably a Nia Jax. And I would say Rhea, but I don't consider Rhea a heel because she's getting cheered all around. She only gets booed when Dom's around. So, and one thing I was thinking is, the main events people, they'll get their their minutes in and whatever. And it's hard to get the mid card side of the women's division to get minutes when they do get their minutes, all they're getting is 2 minutes, 3 minutes. We see it with the same thing with the women's tag division. It's a joke. It's a complete joke. And I shouldn't, be complaining because how good WWE has been. But those are don't get me wrong, they're doing, this is easily their best year in years. But they gotta kind of establish their women's division a little bit. You can't build stars through 2-minute matches that are just mean nothing. You gotta let them cook, get the fan reactions. And that's one thing WWE misses in a lot of their shows, is the crowd reactions. Back then, you have NXT people come in, the crowd goes nuts. Everyone remembers when Bayley showed up. Crowd went insane. Everyone remember when Sasha showed up. Insane. Becky, Charlotte, insane. Kevin Owens, Sammy. I can keep going. The crowds are insane. Nowadays, they come in here and get in a silence through the crowd. It's like the crowd doesn't even care. And the truth is, probably a lot of them don't care unless you watch NXT week to week. Ivy Nile, thankfully, she's been with the Creed brothers, so we've gotten to see how she is. She got her one hoorah against Rhea Ripley a couple months ago. Hasn't done nothing since. The inconsistency with the mid-card division for the women's division right now, it's atrocious in a way. The main event spot, that shit's all fucking good. There could be a couple fixes to Io Sky's reign a little bit, but other than that, they've been, boom, lights out with it. They need to fix the women's tag division, turn it into a mid-card division, and, go and keep going in here. Because we all know how good Candice LeRae is. We all know how good Ivy Nile is, Katana Chance, Kaden Carter, Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, Meechin. We know how good those women are. They just need to give them time to show it. And it's hard for SmackDown when you got Roman Reigns taking up 50 minutes of the fucking show. That's why, when I said earlier, a lot of the Rock and Roman segments should be on Raw, even though Roman's the champion of SmackDown. SmackDown ain't a 3-hour show like Raw is. In 3-hour shows, you gotta put in what your third hour is gonna be. It's a very hard to book 3-hour shows. And you could say it's not, but I've seen multiple videos of people saying on how hard it is to actually book 3-hour shows. Because you got to bring two people, you got to bring the same person in twice or whatever. You got to do this, you got to do that. If they let in a 3-hour show, there shouldn't be 2 minutes of women's wrestling. I get you got your in-ring promos and all that to build the stuff, but these women should have had at least a 10-minute match. 10, 13 minutes. Let them cook. Have Candice LeRae do one of those suicide DDTs as she goes outside the ring. I haven't seen her done that in fucking forever. Have Ivy now hit her with a couple fucking suplexes. Who knows? Very disappointed in the match, though. I'm getting sidetracked to things, but trying to get back into the program here. The match, I was very disappointed. I was expecting, something good here. And we didn't really get much of anything. But Candice LeRae did win off a roll-up after faking a knee injury, so... I do like the way they're putting up I like the way that they're putting her in a position to be one of the top heel wrestlers. And Indy Hartwell could thrive through that too. It's just a matter of when they're actually going to pull the trigger. And I don't even know if they are going to pull the trigger. So, next thing, we're going to talk with the CM Punk promo. One of the most entertaining promos of the year, in my opinion. One of the most entertaining ones we've had. Punk comes out, and talking about, great city of Chicago. Talks about being at WrestleMania as a potential referee or all that. Drew comes out and the shots instantly, boom. And it didn't even feel like a promo either. It just felt like shoots. Like every time Drew got done talking, boom, Punk came right back with something. It wasn't one of those, when you're watching a promo, one waits for them to wait and then they wait a second and then they talk. Punk just went right at it. Um, tried to Drew coming up with the you don't do drugs, you don't drink, but yet you spend all your time in rehab. That was a fucking excellent line. Um, of course, Punk brought up before Drew came out how The Rock, that his arms are too short to box with God. I loved how he referenced that. Samoa Joe referenced it last week on Dynamite, which was, I like how they're bringing back old promos like that. It's very good callbacks. Um, and Drew or Punk, in my opinion, came out with one of the best lines. On goes, "Who chose you?" Because they used to call Drew the chosen one. And Punk goes, "Who's chose you? What's his name?" And I'm like, "Oh, you gotta be shitting me. You can't even bring up this guy's name," but it's fucking hilarious. And the people who don't know, it's Vince McMahon. When Drew first came into WWE, Vince called Drew the chosen one. So I liked how they brought him up in this like that. But then again, Punk, he's gonna say whatever. He's one of the best talkers in the business, so you can't really argue with him about how he should cut a promo or whatever. I did know the internet got a little bit of a fit because Punk was talking about Pat McAfee's show, and he threw out a drive-in or experience, which, and again, if the people who don't know, it's Jim Cornette's podcast. One of the most controversial podcasters, I could say, in wrestling. If it comes to who's the most controversial, I could compare him to Punk on how controversial he was from 2022 to 2023. The controversy right there is pretty much how Jim is now. But I ain't calling Jim Cornette no CM Punk because he's not no CM Punk. And I know people had a fit about it because how calling Punk a racist and all that, which in my opinion is just foolishness because there's not one bit of proof that you can prove that Punk is a racist or homophobic, transphobic. Hell, we know he ain't any of those based off the pictures we've seen him when he was in AEW. And just because, and I'm not even a Jim Cornette fan, I don't personally like what Jim talks about nowadays on his stuff because to me it just brings a toxic environment to everything, pretty much, when it comes to AEW or whatever. And you could say, well, he does the same thing for WWE. Well, he does. Don't get me wrong, the guy does. But it ain't as bad. With AEW, it's just worse. That you can hear the toxic, come out of him. And I'm not a toxic person. I don't bring toxic stuff into my side of things. I don't bring my side of... And when it comes to wrestling, there's no reason to be toxic about any of it. And people choose to be, so that's them. But I ain't a Jim Cornette fan, and the people calling Punk all this, foolishness. Foolishness. Don't get me wrong, Jim has had his fair share of controversial things that he has said in the past. But that doesn't make Punk or FTR, racist bigots or whatever they fucking call it on Twitter. Hell, it's like saying if you support Trump, you're automatically racist. That's not fucking true either. It's just brain dead people on the internet. And one thing I gotta say too, and this is off Raw topic. Everything the last fucking 5 minutes I said has been off Raw topic. One thing I find funny is every time you hear the Jim Cornette's racist, homophobic, or sexist, stuff. The one thing every Cornette fan brings up, and hell, Cornette got shooters. I will say he got shooters. Is they always bring up the Young Bucks and Excalibur. Every time. I got two older brothers. They bring them up too. Every time. I got two older brothers who watch Jim a lot. Every time you bring up Jim's stuff like that, that's the first thing they bring up. And one thing I gotta say is, people say that they don't want Jim Cornette to be the, or it's hard to say this one, to not talk about him. You don't want, what he says or don't bring it up, but when he does bring something up, like, or whatever, fans go fucking insane. But yeah, it's funny how the whole Punk promo on 2 lines started up a whole fucking shit on Twitter, and now I'm talking about it on a fucking podcast, and we're talking about Raw. But that'll be the last I'll talk about Jim Cornette tonight, maybe, who knows. And don't get me wrong, it's okay to not like him. You know, who knows, some of his fans could come out and try to shoot me, who knows. The one thing is, I just don't like the toxic that comes out of him. One of the best managers of all time, I will say that. He is a true historian of wrestling. But his current day opinion of wrestling, yeah, just keep me on the other side of the streets. If you want to talk old territory wrestling, bring me the fuck in. I'll have a fucking sit down chat and talk fucking all day. But anything close to modern day, keep me away from. But of course, Punk and Drew, they keep going at it. Seth comes out, and Seth pretty much says that he hasn't thought of him. He hasn't thought of it since the last time they stood in the ring together. Which, hope so, because you have enough on your plate right now dealing with the bloodline, and having Chicago choose if you should be referee or special guest commentator. Either way, someone's getting screwed out of that title match. Let's be real here. Someone's getting screwed out of the title match with Punk either being the referee or special guest commentator. Like, there's no in between. Someone's getting screwed. So that's gonna be funny, but I think Drew's definitely getting screwed. So that was a very interesting promo. One of the most entertaining promos, too, that we've had this year. But going on, Andrade versus Giovanni Vinci. Andrade was supposed to face Ivar. Ivar's hurt. And sorry, I have had been sick the last week, so keep me up with the program here. Andrade versus Ivar, and I wanna say something right now to the Ivar haters. Y'all gotta quit hating on my boy Ivar, okay? This man was in a tag team with Eric from Viking Raiders, of course. Eric went out, and Ivar has been cooking since he's became part of the singles side of things. He has been cooking, and nobody wants to recognize it. Y'all act like this man's a bum. This man is 300 pounds. He could do a fucking backflip off a rope. That's fucking good. Like, Ivar has been cooking, and nobody wants to recognize it. Hell, if we're talking about anyone who should get an Intercontinental title shot against Gunther at WrestleMania, Ivar should be on that list. Like, so to the people on the internet talking shit about Ivar, just because he's a Viking gimmick and in those days of those gimmicks are gone, get the fuck out of here. Like, Ivar is a hooper. He's a hooper. He's a ball player. He's amazing. He's half man, half amazing. Like, but sucks that he didn't get to face Andrade, because I would have actually fucking enjoyed that match so much. But he got Giovanni Vinci, which I haven't seen Giovanni Vinci in a singles match, and shit, he probably had one in the last couple months, but I don't remember. But the match was all right. It wasn't nothing huge. The first fucking hit Andrade hit was, I think he hit him with a chop. Oh man. Oh, You could hear that. You could literally be in the fucking middle of a desert 10,000 miles away and you could fucking hear that chop. It was fucking brutal. And Andrade, of course, doing what he always does, doing backflips. And I actually got a question for people who watch this. Let me know in the comments below. Who do you think's backflip is better? Charlotte's or Andrade's? Let me know in the comments below. Personally, I think Andrade, but I think Charlotte's is more slow-mo. Makes it more for much of a moment, kind of. Andrade's is more smooth, in my opinion. But let me know down below what you think. Andrade beat him with a spinning back elbow, which, if you don't know, it's a Judas effect, which, in my opinion, this is better than a Judas effect. Hell, if Jericho could done a Judas effect back in his prime, ooh, man, cooking with gas. Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley, they came out, had a face-to-face confrontation. They started with a very interesting bit to start this talk, and the first promo that they had versus each other, I thought this whole fucking build-up was gonna suck. Talk about man, women, man, I'm the mommy, I'm the man. Like, but this is where we get it up here. Some of the top, takeaways from it, Becky, pretty much took a shot of Rhea's lack of in-ring appearances, lack of matches that she's had on television, and always posting, and of course Rhea comes back with that she doesn't need to win the approval of people over a match. She just has to post one video or picture and the freaks eat it up, which, if y'all are not on Twitter, this last fucking weekend was crazy as shit. Rhea Ripley hit a sting face on Nia, and let me tell you, those freaks ate it up. Last week, all I heard was how much they need to, how much people were going at. All I heard last week was people saying how much they don't need to want to bring the women's or the Divas stuff back, because some fucking weirdo posted a video of a bikini contest, and then they fucking eat this shit up. Okay. So that was something. So Rhea pretty much said that she didn't need to win the match, and then I know Rhea said something about her daughter. I know she said something about she wanted her to call her mommy or something. And then next thing you know, Becky comes out and she starts crying, and I think it was crying maybe a little bit. And next thing you know, fucking she hit Dom in the face, which was actually fucking funny as hell. Not gonna lie to you. And then a huge brawl came out, and that was pretty much the end of that one. And the first couple weeks, it's like, okay, they're lacking the build, but then this week they just came out and started hitting on everybody. So I'm very intrigued on this matchup, because they're making Becky look a lot like an underdog when we know she isn't the underdog. But they're trying very hard to make her look like an underdog. Speaking of underdogs, I'm not talking about underdog fantasy. Sami Zayn faced Bronson Reed. Very good match. Very solid match in the middle of the show. Gunther made an appearance out in the front of the entranceway. I know beforehand Gunther said that he didn't think he didn't think Sami could beat Bronson Reed. And he was actually right. Sami Zayn lost to Bronson Reed because Sami Zayn got distracted. Bronson Reed hit him with a clothesline, boom, tsunami, and beat him. Which Did not expect. Did not expect that one at all. I did not expect him to actually go out and beat him like that. And you know, in the psychological thinking, you'd think, oh, Bronson Reed should be in the match. Not really the case, I don't think. But that was very shocked. I do like seeing Bronson Reed getting the more time in. I know when he first came back, wasn't really used much. And, he had, the U.S. title Elimination Chamber match to the U.S. title match, Backlash, which he was having like 6-7 minute matches, to now he's having 10-minute matches, 13-minute matches. Like, he's having longer matches. Like, he's getting through these matches well and not being all tired. And it's great to see that out of Bronson Reed, because he's a lot like the Bam Bam Bigelows, the King Kong Bundys, the Mark Henrys. He's a lot like those guys. And me being the person I am, I love Mark Henry. I love Bam Bam Bigelow. I love King Kong Bundy, even though I never grew up to watch 2 of the 3 guys. I like them. I personally like them. They're and I think it's just the presence of what they bring. They're different. They're bigger. They're not, high flyers. And with Bronson Reed, he can fly. Give him a super kick and a backflip, and he's all ready to go. But then after that, I know Chad Gable went up to Sami Zayn and offered him, pretty much an alliance kind of to help him. And I feel like they're making this into the Rocky, I think it's Rocky 4 type movie against the Russian. Which, very interesting that they're doing it with Sami Zayn, because no one thinks Sami could beat Gunther. And the one guy that almost beat Gunther, Chad Gable, he's going to be the one to help Sami. Now, the case is, does Chad Gable cost Sami Zayn the match at WrestleMania? If they are going with a Alpha Academy heel turn, yes. I do believe that Chad needs to go on his own without Alpha Academy. I feel like Otis and Akira Tozawa and Maxine should hit their way to NXT, get themselves, and Otis, he could, Otis and Akira, they're there. Maxine needs to hit her way to NXT, but because she ain't really, all she's doing at this point, being on the main roster, is showing on how inexperienced she really is. And when we seen a couple weeks ago, if people seen it, her getting booed at a live event because how bad her match was, that hurts. If you're a wrestler, you know that hurts. And as a fan, you'd be like, damn, that sucks. But you gotta know the hard truth of wrestling. The fans, you could sit there and say, well, if you can't do a backflip or you can't do a push-up, you shouldn't be talking. The fans are still the ones that, at the end of the day, those are the ones that watch. So they're going to make an opinion. They all have an opinion. It's like with sports players, even though some of them can't do a push-up or a jumping jack, they're still going to criticize because, hell, that's what they do. Hell, what do you think I'm fucking doing now? I sit on a chair and talk about sports and criticize the bad and praise the good. And yes, I used to be a football player, so I can kind of, talk, but and kind of not. So, back to Alpha Academy, I feel like they need to go to NXT, get themselves back into the groove of things, and with Shawn Michaels, I bet you give them a good 4 months, they're tag champs. Easy. Hell, find someone else for Alpha Academy and put Akira Tozawa back in the singles division, please. Bring back the cruiserweight division, please. We need that. I personally need that for my love and joy for 205 Live. Definitely because I definitely did not watch Cedric Alexander vs. Kota Ibushi in a 205 Live about a couple hours ago. So, so back at it. I know DIY and R-Truth, or no, DIY had a match with New Day. Got ended with Judgment Day getting involved, taking everybody out. I know there's a 12-man tag next week. And I gotta sit here and say a couple things first. Their New Day, I love New Day. I think we all love New Day, but I think we have finally hit the time for them to finally hang it up, not retire, just have them go their separate ways, because they have not been the same since Big E got hurt, and they haven't been the same since before COVID. And I feel like all they're doing now is just keep sinking and sinking and sinking. And Kofi still got a good couple years left in him. Xavier, he still has a couple good years left in him. Well, Xavier, I feel like they could put him in the mid-card division. Boom, he could thrive like Ricochet does every week. But I feel like that's just one of the things. And I've been thinking about this one too. And let me know down below what you think. And there's always come to a time where certain wrestlers need to leave to bring themselves back up. We've seen it with Cody Rhodes. We've seen it with Drew McIntyre. We're currently seeing it with Mustafa Ali and Dolph Ziggler over there in TNA. And I feel like we need another guy to do what Dolph and Mustafa's doing. I feel like there's a couple people that I could consider that should be doing it. I know The Miz. I think The Miz... I love The Miz. Don't worry. When Miz first started, hated him because, of course, he was a heel, and, that's kind of what you do. You hate the heels. But as we get through and more older or once he gets, going and out of his prime a little bit, you start to sit there and wonder, is he really the same, Miz? He's not the same. That's why I feel like you put him in a situation like he goes over to TNA, tries to thrive through there. He can be a heel. Trust me, you put him in TNA, he is the biggest heel that company has seen in fucking forever. He can cut a promo. He still has the in-ring ability. But I feel like right now, it's the same way I'm feeling with Chris Jericho. And I love Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is one of my favorites. But it's time for you to step away from your role. And for Jericho, it's him just to retire. Just retire or go away, don't look like a melted ice cream bar and come back. Miz, on the other hand, it's just need him in a different, show. I feel like him in TNA would be amazing, but first they would need to fire him. I'm not wishing for them to fire him, but there always comes to the day where you got to think, well, maybe it's time. They did it with Dolph, they'll do it to anybody at this point. And The Miz, hell, maybe TNA will be a fit for him for a while. But let me know what you think down below on that. I just think Miz needs a revamp of his old self. And I think TNA is, of course, one of the places to do it. Go down to the main event of the show. Jey Uso versus Shinsuke Nakamura. It was an alright match. Nothing very, it was very quick. I know they started out good, went right into commercial break, came out. A couple minutes later, match was already over. A lot of chaos happened around the ring. And then after the show, or after the match, I know Drew and Seth got into it. I know next thing you know, they're showing backstage with Cody and Cody and Solo, and him and Jimmy, and then next thing you know, The Rock comes up, takes him out, hits him with a couple of trash cans, and then they go outside to where it's raining, and they start, and it just makes a perfect villain good guy movie. It looks like a good guy. It looks like if it was like a Batman movie, and you have the bad guy, and then you have Batman. just going right at it with each other. And The Rock makes the perfect villain for this one. And as the rain is coming down, Rock just keeps hitting him. And they come up to a side to where one of their trucks are for production trucks that they bring for their production stuff. And they show, of course, if you don't know, on the side they show wrestlers. They show two particular people, and I've been thinking that they could show up at WrestleMania. Cena and Stone Cold. It showed them both right there. And I'm telling you right now, that can't be a coincidence. Or that has to be, that has to be somewhat planned that they did that. Because I know a couple weeks ago, Rock said something about no one beats The Rock twice or whatever. When Stone Cold, he beat him twice. Rock's a boss. He's the final boss. Who is the one guy that don't like bosses? Easy, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And if Cena, I think Cena is more of a, Roman's beat him. He's dealt with the bloodline. And more of a thing to end with Solo. So, and we've seen something that we have never seen ever. Well, actually, we haven't seen this in years. On WWE television. Like, not pay-per-view, on actual television. We've seen someone bleed for the first time in years. It was like an opening moment for God. It felt so good to see the blood coming down Cody's face. And it's not even a bad thing either. People be like, well, that's just fucking weird. It's not weird for when you're someone who loves that ruthless aggression era, and when every big rivalry, there was always blood. And yes, I did not start watching wrestling until, 2013, 2012. But man, I'm only 18 years old. So I go back and I watch all these old, matches, shows, pay-per-views. I'm actually I'm actually going through all the territory stuff. I'm currently in the fucking year of 1979. So yeah, I'm getting too, quick with it. But there was a time where I was watching the Ruthless Aggression era. And man, Batista, Triple H, Cena. Oh, Cena, you want to talk about a man who bleeds? Y'all thought John Moxley bleed much? Cena was a lot worse. Holy shit. He was a lot worse. But I like how we're now getting blood back in WWE. The profanity, the swearing, cussing, whatever you want to call it, has been just free for everybody. Well, pretty much to a lot of the main guys, but you could definitely see that we're slowly getting out of the PG era. Like, we're getting out of that era and finally going into this new era. And I don't know what to call it. Though, relivement or something. Let me know down below what you think this new era should be getting called, because you could see that they're putting the seeds right in there for that to expose itself. Exposed to be what we're going to be seeing for the next 10, 20 years. And the great thing about professional wrestling is, especially if you watch more than WWE, you got to know when, and one of the worst things that's happened for AEW right now is that WWE is now, it's the hottest it's ever been, because if AEW's having their best year too. That's the thing that sucks the most. WWE's having their best year in years, and AEW's having their best year in company history. It's just absolutely insane. It's just crazy on how two of the biggest promotions in the world are having their best year. TNA was there for a moment. It kind of has went away. In Japan, they're building themselves back up because they lost two of their biggest stars, and Stardom lost one of their biggest stars in Mercedes. And so it just feels good to be a wrestling fan, especially if you watch all. If you only watch one, then okay. But if you're one of those tribalistic fucks, then you can get the fuck out of here, because I don't support that either. That goes with my toxic side of things that I do not like in wrestling internet Twitter right now. So y'all stay blessed. Have a good day. And you'll hear from me tomorrow about WWE NXT. So I'm pretty sure that's gonna be a good episode, like it always is. Y'all stay blessed and have a good one.